We saw some fiery but mostly peaceful testimony yesterday in the House of Representatives by none other than our colleague, friend, and frequent guest, Julio Rosas. Did you see this? Here, take a look.
In my capacity as the senior writer for Townhall, I covered many of these BLM and Antifa riots firsthand, and I can tell you that these were very destructive events, not just in the moment and to the cities in which they occurred, but also to our nation's overall approach to law and order.
That's right. He was there to speak about the Antifa riots that he's witnessed firsthand on the lines, in the blazing fires, in the gunfire, in fact, on the streets of American cities. And he went on to talk about the very real situation involving the lack of police enforcement in these circumstances. Here, watch.
Today's criminals have no fear because why would they? Law enforcement is understaffed, and even when arrests are made, pro-criminal DAs give them sweetheart deals so they can go back out and commit crimes again.
Yeah, no one's going to get him for perjury on that one. 100% true. Joining us right now, senior writer from Townhall and author of Fiery but Mostly Peaceful, the 2020 Riots and the Gaslighting of America, is Julio Rosas. Why, look, you're already out of D.C. You couldn't get out of this town fast enough.
Yeah, I would have left earlier if the hearing was in the morning.
Well, listen, first of all, tell me what the hearing was about, why you were there as an expert witness, and what they were trying to get to the bottom of, sir.
Basically, it was to go back in time a little bit to say that all that violence that happened in 2020, I mean, they were not, by and large, being perpetuated by people wearing MAGA hats, right? This was the far left, time and time again in multiple places all over the country, doing destructive riots, and it was to highlight that yes, there is far right violence, but there's also far left violence. And it was funny, Congressman Bishop, the chairman of the subcommittee, he said that whenever you try to bring up left wing violence, the reflex from the left is, well, there's all these Republicans too. And so it was to not say that there's just one or the other. It's just to say that there needs to be a whole government approach to addressing radicalism, no matter which side it comes on or it comes
right.
from.
But let's be real here. You know, Jussie Smollett's attackers and all of these so-called right-wing white nationalists who march in Washington, D.C. and then just disappear. They're not the ones in 2020 who were engaged in these violent attacks. You saw it firsthand. And your testimony, Julio, it was very compelling because this was not organic. I remember interviewing you at the time from Minnesota and from Wisconsin where you said, oh, yeah, there's a certain time and these certain types of people come out. They're all dressed the same way. They've all got umbrellas. They've all got the same kind of weapons. And that's when they start their mayhem.
Right. And that was the other part of the hearing, is that not only is it far left violence, but it's pretty well organized. And yeah, that's not to say that Antifa was involved in every single riot that happened in 2020, but they were present at a lot of them. They were present and were the main instigators as a lot of the riots that I personally covered, because, it just depends on where the location is. They are generally mostly active in the big cities, specifically, Pacific Northwest, DC, New York, Los Angeles. So yes,
yeah.
It wasn't spur of the moment, these types of attacks.
There was also a moment in this interview, Julio, where, during the testimony, where somebody said, well, listen, 93% of these protests were all peaceful, as if 7% violence is okay. But you sort of detailed exactly what that looks like, 7%.
Yeah, and because that's the using the correct math to try to, but still being misleading, right? Because in that 7%, we're talking about 500 major violent incidences, and when that study was taken, it was only, I believe, like between like a 3 or 4 month time span, and the riots lasted well into the fall. So 500 major violent incidents in American cities, sometimes repeatedly in the same area, happening within a 3 to 4 month time span, that is a lot. And that is not at all sustainable. And that is obviously an indicator of a very big problem that's happening within the country. And so to just say, well, it's only 7% as opposed to 93. And that's when I said, like, look, for the sake of the nation, it's good that it was only 7% and not 10 or 15, because $2 billion worth of damage, dozens of people killed and thousands injured in just that 7%. I mean,
Yeah,
it's truly
but to say only 7%, it's billions of dollars. People lost their businesses. Small business owners lost their businesses. It was atrocious. Listen, the subtitle of your book is The Gaslighting of America Coming Out of These Riots that you reported on, I want to emphasize, firsthand with, combat gear, literally. Which brings us to this exchange with Representative Goldman. Let's take a look.
You're trying to get us, gaslight us up here as if Antifa, which Mr. Rosas, apparently the expert now in organized terrorist activity, has overruled the FBI director who says, there's a headline, says Antifa is an ideology, not an organization. No, no, no. Let's not listen to the FBI director. Let's listen to, sorry, what's your title? Senior writer at Townhall, who is going to tell us that the FBI director is wrong. And I'd like to introduce, there's no question.
I think it's funny to be lectured by an heir to the Levi Strauss Corporation. And honestly, that's probably why he doesn't consider property damage to be that big of a deal, because not only does he have that, but he also has what some would describe an impossibly good stock portfolio. But what I can tell you is...
It's almost like you were ready for Congressman Dan Goldman to come after you like that. And I love the condescending, wait, what's your title again?
Yeah.
It's sort of laughable. Also, by the way, I do love our friend and colleague Katie Pavlich peering over your shoulder there, literally having your back. Julio, expand on this, because not many people can keep calm under fire like you did, and you did a great job.
I mean, I will admit during his part of the exchange, because it took place several minutes apart. I was in my seat. I was kind of squirming. Because I'm just like, come on, like let me get some licks in too. But I mean, I mean, there was no reason for me to just be like, oh, do the David French. Oh, how dare you, sir? How dare you, sir?
Right.
Right. Because look, the facts are on my side, and the fact that the Daniel Goldman is trying to be like, well, how can we trust him and not the FBI director? And I'm like, are you seriously trying to invoke the credibility of FBI right now? Even forgoing what we just learned, but like just the recent history, but especially in the aftermath of what everything that has been laid out. It's just like, are you really that idiotic? And the question and the answer to that is yes, because the quote that he used from the FBI director, he is outdated, because in 2021 he later admitted that, well, yes, it is actually more than just a movement, or it's more than just a thought. It is like organized groups. So he's using an outdated, incorrect statement to try to say that I'm somehow not credible. And so I mean, it's the optic of this rich white guy from Manhattan who represents Wall Street talking down to a Latino working class journalist is really funny. And of course, Democrats aren't going to see the irony in that. And I don't like to play into that whole identity politics, but it exposes the hypocrisy that Democrats are well known for when it comes to when they encounter minorities who show the truth that goes against their
You're
interests.
right, Julio, and you don't play that card, but I think it's glaring when you see that side by side that our colleague Kevin McMahon put together there for Townhall. Well, listen, you did us all proud, and you spoke the truth, and you were a great witness, and I appreciate you amplifying the truth and literally speaking truth to power. I'm told that's what journalists are supposed to do. We do that on a daily basis at the Townhall media sites and right here on O'Connor Tonight. There's more to come. You're watching Salem News Channel.